a photo in the background of turkeys crossing the street. Wild turkeys crossing the street. And a person driving stopped their car to let the turkeys cross the street. And then they took a photo of it. A really nice photo. Turkeys crossing the street. Wild turkeys crossing the street. Thank you everyone who's here. We're going to start off this live stream with turkeys crossing the street. Wild turkeys crossing the street. And I'm going to be making a long form video about this. I also have a very long news article to read about a British man who used to work in a slaughterhouse. A British man who wanted to be a veterinarian when he was a child and unfortunately ended up working for a slaughterhouse. So this is a live stream to help all of you be vegan and to bring out your love for animals. Because humans are born to love animals, respect animals, and watch them live in nature. They're a little bit different than us because they live outside and we live inside, but we still respect them. And we're starting off this live stream with turkeys crossing the street. So if you're here and you're just joining, like the live stream, hit that thumb up button. Hit the thumb up button. This is a live stream that's going to bring out your love for animals. And I'm starting it off with a picture of turkeys crossing the street. Wild turkeys. Wild turkeys. I'm almost tempted to live stream this on Facebook. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to live stream this partly on Facebook. So I'm going to be live streaming this on Facebook from my other phone. And in just a moment, I'm going to get into more details. But first, I'm just setting up this live stream right here. And we're starting off with turkeys. Turkeys, wild turkeys. I don't really know how to get a nice... Okay, here we go. I'm not going to be looking at the comments. Hi, Rogue. Hello, Facebook. It's almost the holiday. And I want everyone to know you probably love animals. So I'm starting this live stream off with wild turkeys crossing the street. Someone was driving. They stopped their car to let the family of turkeys cross the street. And they got a nice image of the turkeys, the family of turkeys crossing the street. So we have a family of turkeys crossing the street. How many of you have seen wild turkeys on the side of the road when you were driving? How many of you have seen wild turkeys on the side of the road while you were driving? I have, in both the states of New York and Pennsylvania. What do? Do you slow down and take pictures of them? Do you slow down and take pictures of them? I have done that. I don't have pictures of them because typically they're really blurry and they're really old because I haven't seen turkeys on the side of the road in years. But I have, in fact, seen wild turkeys crossing the street, or not crossing the street, on the side of the road by the curb, almost in the street. You see lots of turkeys in Texas? Is it exciting when you see wild turkeys crossing the street? I think it's exciting. They look cool. You're like, wow, that's a turkey. Kind of like when you see an eagle or a falcon fly across your house. You're like, whoa, That's an eagle or a falcon. It's pretty interesting. You saw a homeless man chasing a turkey with a bat. Well, turkeys can be very aggressive. Turkeys are very smart birds and territorial birds, and they are very aggressive. They have a character for sure. They all have different personalities. So yeah, some turkeys will try to fight you. That's a fact. Some turkeys can, like all birds and animals, have personalities. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. How many of you have done this? Hold on. I'm going to get a picture really quick, okay? A lot of people in the north. This is a picture for a lot of you. So let's just do a real quick question. How many of you have seen wild turkeys when you're driving? You see wild turkeys when you're driving. Yeah, kind of like seeing a skunk. You don't want to get near it because you don't want to get sprayed. But if you see a skunk, you're like, what? I never see skunks. You kind of want to back off, but you want to look. How many of you have seen a turkey or a family of turkeys either on the side of the road or crossing the street? A lot of you have. I have before. You see them almost every day. How many of you have seen this in your backyard or your friend's backyard? How many of you have seen this before in your friend's backyard or your neighbor's backyard or your backyard? This applies to most people in the north. So Northern America. How many of you have seen this before in your backyard or someone else's backyard? There's seasons for them. These are raspberries. Some people have grapes in their backyard, blackberries. Some people have blueberries in their backyard. How many of you have seen raspberries in your backyard or your neighbor's backyard? Yes or no? It's a raspberry bush. Do you want me to find a clearer image? Hang on. I used to have a neighbor with raspberries. Here, this is a better picture. Let me get it. It's frozen. There we go. How many of you have seen a bush like this in your backyard or your neighbor's backyard? Your grandpa? Your grandpa? I would love to have raspberries in my backyard too. I live in a city, so my backyard is like cement and mulch. But I used to have a house with an apple tree in the backyard, raspberry bush my neighbor had in his backyard. I have a question. How many of you had a neighbor right at the property line or close to it? There's no fence, but there's berry bushes. How many of you, be honest, have totally eaten a few berries off of your neighbor's berry bush? You don't own the backyard, no. Guys, how many of you have a neighbor with berries in their backyard and you've totally snagged a few berries? Even though it's not your property, you totally go for walks in the trail out back and, I'm going to sneak a few berries. How many of you have done that? Everyone in the South has berry bushes. Oh yeah, I guess it's more of like a Concord grape thing up here in the North, huh? Shout out to Sherry. You don't have to steal because you have your own berry bushes. How many of you have snuck some of your neighbor's berries on their berry bush because you didn't have one? Better yet, how many of you asked if you could take a little, like a root and plant your own? Rogue eats her neighbor's blackberries. When I was a kid, my next door neighbor, my grandparents, I would be at my grandparents. I lived there. My grandparents' next door neighbor had pear trees. Like they look like bushes, but they're technically little trees. And it would actually divide their lawn from the other neighbor's lawn. So me and my grandma would sneak across the yard from her next door neighbor, and we would take all the pears, and then we would go back to my grandma's house and eat the pears. You have pecan trees. You eat the pecans. I ate the pears. I eat the raspberries. So just to be clear, If you're walking past a berry bush, are you going to take some of the berries and eat them? Hi, Amanda. Nuts, you have to have a nutcracker. But I'll eat them straight from the source. Some people might not do that. They might take them in and wash them. But if they're growing in the wild, who has this memory as a child? Hang on. This has to be a core memory in a lot of our childhoods. I just want to know if you have this memory where you see tiny little strawberries in the wild. Tiny little strawberries. They look like that one down there with the yellow flower. How many of you remember seeing the flowers and you were like, oh, strawberries are going to grow here in a few months? How many of you remember seeing those? The tiny little, they're not genetically modified, just wild little strawberries. Wild little strawberries. How many of you have seen that and picked those and eaten them? Yes, me too. It was my favorite time of year because I was a kid and I'd go looking around, scouting around. And how many of you would sometimes try to spread them so that they would grow more the next year? We all did this as children. Back to this picture right here. Let me find it. Back to this picture right. Oh, where'd it go? I lost it. Hang on. I'm looking for it. Oh, it was a good picture too. Back to this picture. Back to this picture. How many of you, again, have seen wild turkeys? Like this. And I have some more images of wild turkeys, by the way. I think they're really beautiful. Sometimes they get hit by cars. Wild turkeys. This is interesting, but there's some people are really helpful toward wildlife. They try to recruit the turkeys and rehome them. But this is a little bit excessive. I'm just saying, back to this picture, compare it to this picture and this picture. We all agree that we at some point in our lives have plucked wild fruit and eaten it. Or if you're paranoid, you take it home, rinse it, and eat it. Whether it's raspberries, pears, strawberries. I just want a show of hands. How many of you have seen a wild turkey and taken a picture of it? We've all done that or tried to. They might move too fast. How many of you have walked up to the turkey, snapped its neck, and bitten into its raw flesh? Show of hands. I'm just questioning. How many of you have seen a wild turkey the same way you've seen a wild strawberry? How many of you have plucked a wild strawberry from its stem and bitten into it, putting it into your hands? How many of you have caught a turkey in the wild, plucked its head off, and bitten into its raw flesh? Have any of you ever done that? You're all telling me to shut up. I'm sorry. I'm going to say you wouldn't do that because you like watching the turkeys. They're pretty. They have like cool colors. Why the fuck would we bite into them and pop their head off and eat them raw? That's not the same thing as plucking a strawberry or a raspberry and eating the raspberry. So my next question for all of you is, how many of you have seen a baby deer in your backyard? A baby deer that looks like this one on the bottom right. And you are like obsessed because you remember seeing them in cartoons with the spots. It's very rare to see a baby deer. It's very rare to see a baby deer. But if you live in the country, it might not be so rare. It might not be so rare. Now, how many of you have seen an injured baby deer and you had to call some sort of wildlife rescue to rescue it? Because that's what park rangers do. That's what wildlife rescues do. They put them in a crate and they rescue them. And then they put them back in the wild. How many of you have been so excited to see a baby deer? How many of you have been so excited to see a baby deer? I know I saw baby deer this year and I watched them grow with their mom, and now they're all grown adults and it's crazy. Earlier in the spring, I saw baby deer with spots, and then they grew over the last 10 months, and now the same family of deer in the middle of the night go on the front lawn and eat the grass, and they walk around. They went from looking like this to full grown deer. Okay, so we eat wild berries. We eat wild berries straight from the source. But we don't eat wild turkeys straight from the source. We don't do that. Okay? We pluck the berries from the grass or the bush and we eat them, but we don't pluck the heads off of wild birds and eat them because that is weird. But there are some animals, and I'm going to show you a picture in just a second. Okay. Just before I show you these pictures, I want to just reiterate. If we see birds, we stop, we let them walk by, and we respect them. This is very common with turkeys. This is very common with ducklings, especially if there's a baby duck stuck in the sewer. Like that happens sometimes. You see those amazing stories. We accommodate them walking streets, like this image right here on the right. Sorry, I can't zoom out. You know what I mean? If we see birds, it's our instinct to patiently let them cross, and we respect the family and we think it's cute. We see them, we let them walk across the street. However, if we see these things, such as berries, we pluck them and eat them. Now, there are some animals, if they were to see birds crossing the street, they would chase them. Those are carnivores. So a lion, for example, if they saw a turkey, they wouldn't stop and let the family of turkeys cross the street. They would chase them down and kill them. So carnivores hunt birds, and they would, in fact, bite into the bird raw and eat it right then and there. Lions don't do this with berries. If a lion walks past a berry bush, it's not going to attack the berry bush and eat the berries because the lion was a born carnivore. So the lion will chase the turkeys, the lion will chase the birds, and they will eat the birds and attack and kill it. Humans won't do that because humans love animals. Lions don't love animals. Lions love each other, and they eat and kill anything that's not a lion. Humans don't do that because humans like fruit, vegetables. If you can put a human, or even, how many of you guys recognize this animal? We love these animals. Hang on. I'll show you a picture of an animal really quick. We love berries. We have a lot in common with this other animal I'm going to show you a picture of here in just a second. Let me find it. There's this animal humans love. And I'm looking. I have a picture for you. I don't know where the picture is, though. I have lots of pictures for you guys today. So there's this other animal. It's called a bear. Bears, for the most part, have a lot in common with humans. Because if bears are walking across the street, we're going to stop for them and take pictures of them because they're cute. We don't feel the urge to chase after the bear's young and put them in our mouth like a lion would. So, like, if a lion were to see a bear and its cubs, the lion would easily go after the cubs. We stop and let the bears cross. In rare cases, we even try to rescue the bears. But I digress. We have a lot in common with bears because bears will spend hours and hours out of their day in the forest sifting through bushes for berries. And that's what humans do. Bears eat fish, and they exert so much energy going into rivers to eat fish that they just typically don't want to exhaust themselves. So I'm going to just take a pause really quick and look at your comments later. I just have to do something really quickly. That is limit my chat to subscribers only. Thank you. This is a moment for all my subscribers to shine. All right. So, nonetheless, humans are animal lovers. We love animals. We love animals. We love rescuing animals. We love watching them grow if they were abandoned or if they were hurt. We will go above and beyond to help out animals, whether it's an animal from the sea or an animal from the fucking sewer. We will cuddle them, show them love, and help them to the best of our abilities. We don't like to see them in pain. It really, really bothers us to see animals in pain. We don't like to see them in pain. It triggers us because we love animals. A lion would love to see an animal weakened in a weakened state and in pain because lions don't love animals. Lions like to kill animals and eat them. We like to eat fruits, nuts, and berries. We don't like to see animals sad. We don't like to see them crying. We don't like to see them injured. We definitely don't like to see them separated from their moms. We want to keep families together. We don't want to see them sad. We don't want to see them crying. We want to see them happy. We want to see them come back to life. Like we want to revive them or we want to help them grow. That's why it's our basic human instinct to let them cross the street. When we see a bird, a family of birds like ducks cross the street, we're like, oh, and we get our cameras out and we take pictures of it because we love animals. So I can infer one thing about humans, and I can infer one thing about lions. Humans love animals. Humans welcome animals into their territory. Humans are fascinated by animals. Lions are not fascinated by other animals because lions want to kill and eat other animals and keep animals away from their territory. Humans aren't like that. We share, we eat fruits and vegetables. We're really similar to bears. And it really hurts us and hurts our heart to see animals in pain, which is why I'm going to read you the story about a man who worked for a slaughterhouse. This is the BBC. It's an interview about a man who worked for a slaughterhouse. Trigger warning. Trigger warning. Trigger warning. Please leave now if you are sensitive to sensitive topics, okay? I'm going to start reading you this story about a man who worked in a slaughterhouse and was devastated by the end of his, what would you say, slaughterhouse journey, if you will. His execution of animals. The story starts out in the UK. And I'm just going to read you the foreword really quick. About 100 million animals are killed for meat in the UK every month. 100 million are killed every month for meat in the UK. But very little is heard about people doing the killing. Here, one former worker described her job and the effect it had on her mental health. Warning. Some readers may find this story disturbing. This is what the woman said. And I'm just going to read you the story and let you look at cute little pictures of animals while I read you the story. Okay? Because I know you love animals. And I know that if a cow was stuck in a river, you would call a wildlife rescue and you would help the cow get out of the river. This is actually a real story. Cow rescued from a flood in Geneva. We love animals. We don't want to kill them. It's psychologically damaging to even imagine such a thing, which is why if you see pictures of animals being hurt, you want to see them like this. You want to see them happy. Okay. The woman says, when I was a child, I dreamed of becoming a veterinarian. A veterinarian is a form of a doctor. It's an animal doctor who helps bring animals to good health. I imagined myself playing with mischievous puppies, calming down frightened kittens, and as I was a countryside kid, performing checkups on the local farm animals if they felt under the weather. It was a pretty idyllic life that I dreamt up for myself. But it's not quite how things worked out. Instead, I ended up working in a slaughterhouse. I was there for 6 years, far from spending my days making poorly cows feeling better. So she went from aspiring to be a veterinarian to the opposite. She wanted to love animals and make them feel better. But instead, she ended up working for a slaughterhouse, which was the opposite. Oh shoot, I just realized Facebook can't see any of this. Thank you everyone who's here today, keeping the chat positive and respectful. I'm reading a story. Always choose the bear. Sometimes we choose humans, or we choose animals over humans. Or a lot of people prefer their dogs over other people. They prefer their cats over other people. That's a very good point. She's working in a slaughterhouse for 6 years. I was there for 6 years, and far from spending my days making poorly cows feel better, I was in charge of ensuring about 250 of them were killed every day. She had to kill 250 cows every day. 250 cows. So we're going to change the background now really quickly to this. Because now she's working in a slaughterhouse. She went from wanting to love the animals to executing 250 a day. Whether they eat meat or not, most people in the UK have never been inside of a slaughterhouse, and good for good reason. They're filthy, dirty places. There's animal feces on the floor. You can see and smell the guts, and the walls are covered in blood. We'll get into the mental health. The smell hits you like a wall when you first enter. There's some drawings to go along with this story if you're interested. The smell hits you like a wall when you first enter, and then it hangs thick in the air around you. The odor of dying animals surrounds you like a vapor. How many of you have worked in fast food and you go home and you smell like fast food? Or how many of you work in a coffee shop, you go home and you smell like coffee? She works in a slaughterhouse. She smells death all day and goes home smelling like death. Why would anybody choose to visit, let alone work in a place like this? For me, it was because I had already spent a couple of decades working in the food industry, in ready meal factories. So when I got an offer from a slaughterhouse to be a quality control manager working directly with the slaughter men, it felt like a fairly innocuous job move. I was in my 40s at the time. On my first day, they gave me a tour of the premises and they explained how everything worked out. And most importantly, they asked me pointedly and repeatedly if I was okay. It was common for people to faint during their first tour. They explained. And the physical safety of visitors and new starters was very important to them. So the average human would faint and knock themselves unconscious while walking through a slaughterhouse. I don't know if that sticks to you or how that sticks to you, but when they give tours, the average person who applies for the job in a slaughterhouse will faint. So they have to constantly check and make sure the person's okay in case they faint and hit their head off of a metal rail. And this, again, is a story about a woman who worked in a slaughterhouse for 6 years in the United Kingdom. She said she was okay, but she felt sick and thought she would get used to it. Soon, though, she realized there was no point in pretending it was just another job. I'm not sure all slaughterhouses are the same, but mine was a brutal, dangerous place to work. There were countless occasions when, despite following all of the procedures for stunning, slaughterers would get kicked by a massive, spasming cow as they hoisted it up to the machine for slaughter. So the cows know. The cows know. The cows hear. The cows hear other cows. That's why they cry. They wait in line and they know they're next. And they fight. And they kick. And they're stunned. And when they get stunned, they kick even harder. And sometimes they kick the people working in the slaughterhouses. And cows are massive animals. You know, cows used to be worshipped. Sometimes the slaughterers would get kicked by a massive, spasming cow as they hoisted it up to the machine for slaughter. Similarly, cows being brought in would get scared and panic, which is pretty terrifying for all of us too. You'll know if you've ever stood next to a cow, they're huge animals. Huge. Very big animals. Personally, I didn't suffer any physical injuries, but the place affected my mind. It affected her mind. It affected her mind while she was working there. It affected her mind. I'm trying to find another picture. It's right here, this picture. This is where I'm at. As I spent day after day in that large windowless box, my chest felt increasingly heavy and a gray fog descended over me. At night, my mind would taunt me with nightmares, replaying some of the horrors I had witnessed throughout the day. One skill that you master while working in a slaughterhouse is dissociation. 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 So she'll go from seeing cows like this and dissociate someplace else. Maybe someplace else like this. She started dissociating to survive. You'll learn to become numb to death and to suffering. To become numb. Instead of thinking about cows as entire beings, you separate them into their sealable, edible body parts. Their sealable, edible body parts. Go from looking at cows as beings to a sealable, edible body part. It doesn't just make the job easier, it's necessary for survival. There are things, though, that have the power to shatter that numbness. For me, it was the heads. It was the heads in the slaughterhouse, she says. The heads in the slaughterhouse. The heads. And I'm not going to show any graphic pictures on here. I just want you to know, though, cows cry. They cry. And they see everything. I'm going to read you this. At the end of the slaughter line, there was a huge skip, and it was filled with hundreds of cows' heads. Each one of them had been flayed, with all of the sealable flesh removed. But one thing was still attached. It was their eyeballs. Their eyeballs were still attached. Whenever I walked past that skip, I couldn't help but feel like I had hundreds of pairs of eyes watching me. Hundreds of pairs of eyes watching me. Some of the eyes were accusing me, knowing that I had participated in their deaths. Others seemed to be pleading as if there was some sort of way I could go back in time and save them. How long does the nervous system function, and how long can an animal see once its head's been flayed? They might have still had some concept of what was happening, and they may have actually made eye contact with her. But maybe not. Maybe it's her guilty conscience speaking. It was disgusting, terrifying, and heartbreaking all at the same time. It made me feel guilty. The first time I saw those heads, it took all of my strength not to vomit. I know things like this bothered the other workers too. I'll never forget the day after I had been at the slaughterhouse for a few months when one of the guys, I'm not going to read this part, but we'll just say had to do something to a pregnant cow and the fetus came out. She was pregnant. So what happened was, once the cows are slaughtered, they're gutted because they are sealable meat. That's what they're considered, sealable meat. One of the cows was pregnant, and unfortunately, they didn't know that, and a calf came out of her. And we're going to just finish reading this story here in a minute. I'm going to change the background to another picture. He immediately started shouting and throwing his arms about. I took him into a meeting room to calm him down, and all he could say was, "It's just not right. It's not right. It's not right. It's not right," over and over again. These were hard men, and they rarely showed emotion, but I saw tears streaming down his eyes. Even worse than pregnant cows were young calves they had to kill. The young baby cows that they had to kill. A physically demanding role. Okay, so that was her monologue, or whatever, that was what she had to say. And now we're going to get into what Rogue said, mental health. On its website, the British Meat Processors Association says the United Kingdom meat industry has some of the highest standards of hygiene and welfare in the world. Many of its members say are at the forefront of the slaughterhouse design, with facilities designed to house the animals and help them move around the site with ease and without pain, distress, or suffering. Meat processing in the UK employs 75,000 people. 69% are from European Union member states. Okay, now this is a quote. The barrier to British people taking up roles in meat processing is an unwillingness to work in what is perceived to be a challenging work environment. Most people, when they eat meat, find it difficult to work in its production, partly because of the obvious aversion to the slaughter process, but also because it's a physically demanding role. So a lot of people who work in slaughterhouses don't eat meat because it's a trigger. And I would understand that. It's a major trigger. At the end of the BSE and bovine tuberculosis crisis in the 1990s, large groups of animals had to be slaughtered. I worked at the slaughterhouse after 2010. So well after the BSE crisis. But if an animal tested positive for tuberculosis, they would still bring whole families in to be culled, bulls, heifers, and calves. I remember one day in particular when I had been there for about a year or so, we had to slaughter 5 calves at the same time. We tried to keep them within the rails of the pens, but they were so small and bony that they could easily skip out and trot around, slightly wobbly on their newborn legs. They sniffed us like puppies because they were young and curious. Some of the boys, I stroked them and they suckled at our fingers. When the time came to kill the baby cows, it was tough, both emotionally and physically. Slaughterhouses are designed for slaughtering really large animals, so the stun boxes are normally just about the right size to hold a cow that weighs about 1,000 pounds. When we put the first baby cow in, it only came about a quarter of the way up to the box. We put all 5 calves in at once, and then we killed them. They have an image of the baby cows that they drew. She drew from her memory. The baby cows. Afterwards, looking at the dead animals on the ground, the slaughterers were visibly upset. I rarely saw them so vulnerable. Emotions in the slaughterhouse tended to be bottled up. Nobody talked about their feelings. There was an overwhelming sense you weren't allowed to show weakness. Plus, there were a lot of workers who wouldn't have been able to talk about their feelings to the rest of us, even if they wanted to. A lot were migrant workers, predominantly from Eastern Europe, whose English wasn't good enough for them to seek help if they were struggling. A lot of the men I was working with were also moonlighting elsewhere. They'd finished their 10 or 11 hours, at work before going to another job, and the exhaustion took its toll. Some developed alcohol problems, often coming into work smelling of alcohol. Others became addicted to energy drinks. More than one had a heart attack. These drinks were then removed from the slaughterhouse vending machines, but people would still bring them in from home and drink them in their cars secretly. So a slaughterman says he's an animal lover, and I think this is an interesting part of the article. A slaughterman described his approach to his work for the food chain on the BBC. He says, basically, I'm an animal lover. I don't take any pleasure in what we're doing. But if I can do it as quietly and professionally as possible, then I think we've achieved something. Just be professional, do it, then switch it off. And then we've finished work. Go home and be a normal person. It's not for everybody. I know a couple of butchers that would not walk inside of the slaughterhouse. The thought of taking someone's life, they find that difficult to accept or even witness. Slaughterhouse work has been linked to multiple mental health problems. One researcher used the term perpetrator-induced traumatic stress syndrome to refer to symptoms of PTSD suffered by slaughterhouse workers. I personally suffered from depression, a condition exacerbated by the long hours, the relentless work, and being surrounded by death. After a while, he started feeling feelings of self-harm. It's unclear whether slaughterhouse work causes these problems or if the job attracts people with pre-existing conditions. But either way, it's an incredibly isolating job, and it's hard to seek help. When I would tell people what I did for work, I'd either be met with absolute revulsion or a curious, joking fascination. Either way, I could never open up to people about the effect it was having on me. Instead, I sometimes would joke along with them and tell gory tales about skinning a cow or handling its innards, but I mostly just kept quiet. A few years into my time at the slaughterhouse, a colleague started making flippant comments about not being here in 6 months. So basically, the workers are saying they're not going to be there anymore for 6 months. They're going to take a 6-month vacation. I think that's what they're saying. Oh, not being here in 6 months? Wait a minute. Let me reread this. A colleague made flippant comments about not being here in 6 months. Everyone laughed it off. He was a bit of a joker, so people assumed he was taking the mick, saying he would have a new job or something. But it made me feel really uneasy. I took him into a side room and asked him what he meant, and he broke down. He admitted that he had become plagued by thoughts of self-harm, that he didn't feel like he could cope anymore, and that he needed help, but he begged me not to tell the boss. I was able to help him get treatment from his general practitioner, and in helping him, I realized I needed to help myself too, because I had felt horrific things. Horrific things that I was seeing had clouded my thinking, and I was in a full-blown state of depression. It felt like a big step, but I needed to get out of there. After I lost my job at the slaughterhouse, things looked brighter. I changed tack completely and began working with mental health charities, encouraging people to open up about their feelings and seek professional help, even if they don't think they need it or feel like they don't deserve it. A few months after leaving, I heard from one of my former colleagues. He told me a man who had worked with us, whose job was to decapitate the carcasses, had unalived himself. Sometimes I recall my days at the slaughterhouse. I think about my former colleagues working relentlessly, as though they were treading water in a vast ocean with dry land completely out of sight. I remember my colleagues who didn't survive. And at night, when I closed my eyes and tried to sleep, I still would sometimes see hundreds of pairs of eyeballs staring back at me. That is Confessions of a Slaughterhouse Worker. You can find that article linked on my Facebook. It's the bbc.com/news/stories with a bunch of numbers. Those are confessions of a slaughterhouse workers. And just please keep in mind this year that when we see fruit on trees, on bushes, fruit that's fallen from trees, we want to eat it. When we see little animals that are vulnerable and lost, we want to help them grow and we want to help them get better. When we see fish or whales, mammals beaching themselves, we want to save them. We want to help them. We want to be part of a good story that shows our love for animals. When we see turkeys or nature crossing paths in front of us, we stop and we give them the respect to cross the street. And sometimes we even flash our lights at oncoming traffic to warn them that there's animals crossing. When we see baby deer, if they're all alone, if the mom got hit by a car, we rescue them. We nurture them. It's our instinct to not hunt them down and kill them. It's not our instinct to chase them down and kill them. I've never seen a human run into oncoming traffic and pounce on a turkey and bite into its head with their own teeth. No, but it's our jobs and it's our instinct, above all, our innate instinct to love them. It's our innate instinct to pluck fruit from trees and eat fruit from trees. It's a carnivore's innate instinct to pluck the head off a bird and eat it. It's our innate instinct to pluck a berry off a tree and eat it. It's not our innate instinct to jump on a cow and attack and sink our teeth into it. It's not our innate instinct to see a cow trapped in a flood and pounce on it and start chewing into it. It's our instinct to help animals. That's why most people say they love animals, because we do. We do. We love them and we want to save them. We don't want to hurt them. All of us can resonate with this because all of us have seen birds crossing the street. All of us have seen bears in wildlife, whether it was a video or whether it was personally while we're driving. So please just remember that we love birds, and if we see a bird injured on the side of the street, we wouldn't put it in our fridge for Thanksgiving. We would bring it to a veterinarian or call an animal wildlife rescue. We wouldn't eat them. We want fruits, we want vegetables, we want nuts. And now let's talk about pigs for a minute, because there's lots of people who rescue pigs. If we were to see a wild pig, we would feel like we're in the Jungle Book. We'd be so astounded. But if the pig were showing any signs of injury, we would save it and call someone to check on its broken leg. We wouldn't jump on it and start eating it. It's not human instinct to attack animals and kill them and eat them. It's just not, because we're not carnivores. We love animals. And I think that lots of you watching also love animals. So if you can just somehow, some way, look inside of yourself and remember that you love animals, be vegan. Be vegan. And go to the vegancalculator.com, because when you're vegan, you save 1 animal a day. That's 30 animals a month. Thank you, everyone who's here and everyone who is considering their love for animals, their compassion for animals, and being vegan for the holidays. Hello, California sunsets. And with that being said, I'm going to just show you the rest of the pictures that I took for today. This is a cow, or no, I'm sorry, there was also a cow that got stuck in a mudslide, but it was a graphic picture, so I didn't share it. But this is just an example of a horse that got stuck, and people rescued the horse. This is just a family of wild pigs. This was a bear that got stuck, and they had to bring a big machine to get the bear, to help the bear down, because the bear was reportedly stuck. And again, we love animals. That's why it's our instinct to help them. If we were truly not animal lovers, we wouldn't be helping them through their weak moments. We would be eating them through their weak moments. And so for people who make the argument, life's natural process, this is our life intended for us. This is a natural process for humans to help animals when they're vulnerable. Okay? If a lion, what's natural for a lion is not natural for a bear. What's natural for a lion is not natural for a human. Because if, for example, we're not going to use deer for example. We could, but I'm going to use antelope for an example. What's natural to lions is not the natural life cycle for humans. If a lion is in the wild and sees a baby deer or a baby antelope, it's going to pounce on it, bite its teeth into it, and eat it. If humans see a baby deer, we make sure it's okay. If we find out that it's stranded, we give them blankets, we give them a fenced-in yard, we give them food. If a human sees, again, a baby raccoon, we bottle feed them. We nurture them. We put them in blankets, and it's actually causing raccoons to domesticate themselves to humans, and they're getting smaller snouts. They're actually domesticating themselves the same way dogs and cats did. This is Darwinism, by the way, and I'll read about that in another live stream. And even when it comes to fish, okay, if we are swimming in the ocean and a creepy fish emerges from the water, we're going to freak out and swim away. Okay? How many of you, if you were in the water, swimming in a lake, and this thing is swimming next to you, are you going to bite your mouth into it and eat it? No, raise of hands. If you were swimming in the water, this murky water, this murky pond, this murky lake, would you open your mouth and bite into that thing or swim away for your life? It's not a natural process by any means at all. It's not a natural process by any means whatsoever to eat these animals. It's a natural process for bears and humans to pluck berries off of a damn bush. We eat fruits and nuts. We are intended to be vegan because if we weren't, we would be chasing down these pigs and biting into them with our teeth. We would be chasing down, swimming in murky water, opening our mouth in the water, and biting into the fish. I want you to comment yes or no. Would you bite into that fish if you were swimming in that dirty lake? Yes or no? How many of you have bitten into a fish when you're swimming in dirty, murky, green lake water? Yes or no? No! You swim away from it because it's scary. Now, despite dirty water, there are nice, clean waters. And humans don't bite into stingrays. It's actually an attraction to swim with stingrays and pet them. And hang out with them and connect with the stingrays. We don't bite into them. Maybe a shark would. But the truth is, animals aren't predators. The truth is, humans, not animals. Humans are not predators. Humans love animals. And I hope that all of you agree to this statement that you love animals. So if you could just rewire your thought process and imagine love for animals, next time there's a dead piece of flesh being marketed and sold to you, remember you have an instinct to save them, not to hurt them. Because at the end of the day, if you see a cow stuck in a flood, you're going to call for someone to rescue it. And there's going to be a story of the day, and you're now a hero. If there's a cow with a dying owner, and the cow is the pet, and the owner's dying, and she needs someone to take in her cow and adopt her cow, I'm sure that there's lots of people who live on farms with other cows as pets that will raise their hands and contact that lady. There's people who have lots of cows for pets, by the way. These ones are not pets. So those are, unfortunately, calves witnessing the slaughter of another calf, and they're crying. So it's really polarizing, these two pictures on the bottom left. You have a cute, happy calf that's a pet, and then you have calves, unfortunately, witnessing the murder of other calves. And which one would you choose? Which one would you choose? Would you rather hang out with the calf in a scarf? Hang out with the calf in a scarf? Or cuddle that one and put him in a scarf? It's human instinct. Human instinct. Thank you for being here, everyone. And exactly, Alpaca Bowl. It would be raw. So, like I said, carnivores, like lions, chase down birds and bite into them and eat them. They chase down birds, they bite into them and eat them raw. Because that's their natural life process. Humans, on the other hand, do not bite into fish raw. They do not bite into bears raw. They especially do not chase down wild pigs if they see the pig has a broken leg and eat them raw. And in contrast to the lions chasing birds, we definitely don't chase birds down and bite into them raw, because it's not their natural life cycle. It's not natural to human instinct to hurt animals. It's nature's human instinct for humans to save and rescue and love animals. So if you're an animal lover watching this today, eat fruit, be vegan, and instead of saying you love animals, act like you love animals. Quit eating them.